Everyone. Thank you for being so patient. Let me just start by introducing myself. I am Avi, now Dr. Avi. I'm still not used to that name. But I matched in Emory in Atlanta this year. Definitely seems difficult. Definitely, I would not like to just hijack this session into it being a neurology session. But how many of you believe that getting into the USMLE journey versus getting into an Indian PG is a much more different kind of a challenge and much more of a challenge? Perfect, makes sense. Okay, so if everything is base 10, getting into the US is base 50. And now, how many of you think that getting into medicine in US is 50, but anything else is 90? So we have three categories of people here. So I'm going to cater to as many people who are also planning to apply for anything but medicine. Because medicine is super difficult, but you need a lot of other things when it's not medicine. And not in ways that we've been hearing, in little ways where it seems very possibly achievable, right? The beauty of neurology is that the first year of neurology is medicine. I hope a lot of people know that. So in a way, matching into neurology is matching into medicine because it has a part of medicine. But matching into neurology is also matching not into medicine because it's not medicine, right? So I think for everyone here, we have a lot to take away. I have tried to divide the session into generalized tips. Again, not going to repeat every amazing thing that has been told as of now, but things that I learned from my journey. And I just find myself a little privileged that I had this blessing that I really don't follow a lot of people necessarily until it feels right to me. And I think that happens to be the case for a lot of people, but the society influences them so much. Like it happens, like you wanted to be a surgeon all your life, but the society is like, oh, you better have a better life as a radiologist. And those people become radiologists who aren't happy with their lives. So let's not make that happen, right? The second part of my session deals specifically with neurology because neurology is love for me. But it has to imply that whatever you feel that love for has to be worth it, and it does not need to feel that difficult. Like someone said before me, the journey is the most beautiful part, and trust me, it will be. The last part is a few messages because I'm sure, tell me if you guys have had those relatives who've been telling you like, you're an intelligent guy and you're going to another country, you better stay here and serve your own country. Anyone has had that experience? So we're pretty much in the same boat. So we'll have answers for all of those questions which will make you feel a little better about those things. Perfect. Pranav, can we have our presentation? So I am someone who's not very heavy on presentations because I want to try connect with you guys. But usse pehle I want to know, is everyone comfortable with Hindi? तो थोड़ा सा फन बनाएंगे सेशन, कम नींद आएगी, हिंदी प्लस इंग्लिश वर्क्स फॉर एवरीवन. And at any time you have any questions, like Dr. Killen said, please note them down. I will be happiest to answer them. I was supposed to go to Leh Ladakh tomorrow morning, but I think at our time we wanted these resources for someone to help. We couldn't get that. So who's going to change that? Us. And I hope by doing this, we are making you better mentors for people who are going to follow you for the next years. You need to take out time from your own routine to help people in the line because this cascade is only going to grow. If you ask your seniors 5 years from now, these many people never even thought of USMLE. Things are changing. In a good way, you have more people to network. In a bad way, it's a lot more competition. But the good thing about USMLE is there are a million seats for people who want to match and who are worth it, but there is not a single seat for a person who does not deserve it. So your competition is not necessarily as much with each other, especially in terms of an Indian scenario. Because in an Indian scenario, the overpopulation, the over-competition makes you think in a way कि तुम अपने notes भी खोलते हो कि तुम्हारे कोई notes देख ना ले. Because that is what the Indian scenario ingrains inside you. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. You can't really survive without the networks. There are skills that you have, other people don't have, and those skills need to be shared. And the more you share, the better you'll feel about yourself. And I think this journey has made me much more of a human being than I could ever be. So let's start. बहुत ज़्यादा slides तो नहीं है, but बहुत खूबसूरत हैं. So feel free to appreciate them at any time. So starting with neurology a little. A little background for me. During my UG, I've done my UG from this beautiful place called Government Medical College, Amritsar, which has a lot of legacy. People in US still feel it's one of the best colleges, but something very similar to it happened, which happened to the education system of India. It's on autopilot. No one cares. People study if they want to study. They don't if they don't want to. In a way, it's the most beautiful thing. But I was ranked 68 in AIMS. I was All India rank 1, AFMC Pune. I chose to not go there for whatever reason. But genuinely, I have no regrets. Because you have to know how to look at the bigger picture. A lot of us feel intimidated by people in different colleges we have no idea about. We have no way of knowing who they are as a person. And the best thing about US is they judge you for who you are as a whole. But if you yourself are intimidated, you're like, I'm from a college and I did not get this experience, I did not get this rotation, I don't have this experience. Would you want to have that person in your workforce? No. But if you are from wherever you are and you're like, I have skills and I'm proud about the things I've done, you sell your own story because no one else in this room has that story. They would love to have you. And in a way, you would be unique enough to add something to their program, right? So, let me start by explaining how the session goes. There are a few brainiac pearls that I have decided to jot down to make this session interesting. Mostly not a repetition of things that you've already had, but let me start with an introduction of which people you want to listen to. US की journey में क्या होता है? A lot of people don't match, a lot of people do match. But people who do match, there are two kinds of people who do match. There are people who got one interview, two interviews, they matched for whatever reason. Now, if you go and ask them how things worked out, their experience obviously will stem out from that one interview. That could be wherever. If there are people who've got many more interviews, I am someone who's passionate about understanding the process and expressing it to people. I know in my heart, I'm going to go just to one place, but I was the happiest knowing I got 19 interviews. I only applied for neurology, but I got 19. But you know what that helped me with? Thank you. And I really hope you guys get many more because it's very much possible. But what it helped me with? Understanding every interview, how every program director is as different as every human being, how different people can want different things from different people, and how you don't want to impress everyone. You want to impress the people who resonate with you. If my profile speaks a lot about teaching, it speaks decently about research, it speaks a lot about my passion for neurology. There are so many community neurology programs in the US who would see my profile and trust me, they would have felt, even if we give him an interview, he's not gonna rank us, he doesn't want to come here. So they will not send me an interview. So sometimes it is also not about getting more interviews, it's about getting the right interviews, right? So that happens when you realize this concept that it's not only your interview, it's as much their interview. How much power that instills you with. Trust me, and don't just fake it, believe it. And when you sit in the interview, you will listen. They were like, I've seen your CV. I know you already as a person. Your CV speaks so much about you. But you ask me what you want from us. And they genuinely mean it. A lot of times, the struggle is to get the interviews. Once they have you on the interview, they are kind of accepting of the fact that if you come to us, we will be happy. Unless you do some blunder, or like sometimes the only thing that is not relevant on your CV is how you speak English, how you communicate, how you are as a person. And trust me, it takes 2 minutes on a screen to see that, just 2 minutes. Now, if you know you are someone who's very inconvenient, you can work on it, that's the best part. But there are certain very important things that people never tell us, and they're very workable. Like when you're talking to people, you don't look in their eyes. How are you supposed to connect with that person? It's a very simple thing, but that changes the game. In conscious ways, in subconscious ways. So always try, when you're listening to people, try get advice from people who have more experiences. I never tell anyone like this is the right way or this is the wrong way. Always, 100%. Possibilities always exist. But you have to identify what kind of a person you are, and you need to go to those people that I resonate most with you. My journey is similar to yours. Your advice is going to be more relevant to me. But again, it's not 100%. No one in this world has the time to study you from A to Z. I can help guide you, people can help guide you, even people that you're paying to will help guide you. But who knows you best? Yourself. And who do you trust least when it comes to you? Yourself. Why is that irony there? Because in India, we are told that you know nothing. You can't ask something to your tutor because it's considered misdemeanor. And in US, I was like, I don't know. It's absolutely fine. And trust me, this happened. If they want to tell me something that they want to mend in me, they would take me to a separate room, just thinking कि आपको बुरा ना लग जाए. And they're so kind and so choosy with their words. And we're like, हमें तो गालियाँ खाने की आदत है इंडिया में. So there's a whole different culture. And when you think about it, it's so beautiful, right? So you need to accept in a way that things are different, but in a good way. Secondly, any peeps who are interested or maybe planning for neurology? Cool. So, similar to how people apply for neurology. It's one of the most difficult subjects, but one of the most beautiful subjects in my way. Why I fell for neurology was when I was in my second grade, my second year. I was just sitting, my dad's an orthopedician, my mom's an ophthalmologist. They were like, you are an artist, why do you want to become a doctor? I was like I just like physics, chemistry and bio. Let's see. So you see, not everyone has that story. I always wanted to become a doctor. I didn't have that story. But I knew I wanted to do things when I wanted to do them. And when I realized I'm teaching how circle of Willis is not a two-dimensional thing, but a three-dimensional thing. And my batchmates are like, यार ऐसा कभी किसी ने सिखाया ही नहीं. इतना मजा कभी आया ही नहीं. हमारे को तो न्यूरोलॉजी सामने दिखती है और हमारी फट जाती है, हम डर जाते हैं. ये तो समझ आ ही नहीं सकती. So I found my calling that I can understand it in a way. But you know what's the most common thing that happens after that? Neurology stuff. I understand it. It's above your level. You won't get it. And that is how we, a lot of times, demotivate a lot of people. But what good is my education if I can't understand a complex subject and get it down to your level and make you understand it? That is the day I have that education truly. Now, everyone does not need to have that passion for one thing. A lot of people do. A lot of people are motivated for OBGYN and a lot of people are passionate for neurology. That's okay. But it's okay. I think बहुत सारे लोग ये feel करते हैं कि यार इतना passion तो हमें है ही नहीं किसी चीज के बारे में. It's okay. Her success is not just salary. It's just 20% salary. India में, because we are always below what we deserve, हमारी race to get that money never ends. But US में, if you are, US is not the best country for sure. But as a doctor, it's one of the finest countries to live in. Because जिंदगी में romance is a problem, career is a problem, money is a problem, family is a problem. ये सब रहती हैं. But as a doctor in US, possibly वो जो पैसे की प्रॉब्लम है ना वो निकल जाती है. And that's a big thing. And like I love Shah Rukh Khan for one of his dialogues. He says, you can't be a philosopher if you're poor. Because when you're thinking about things you don't have, you've dreamed of, you can't expect them to be kind, right? So the same thing when people used to ask me, why do you want to leave your country? Why do you want to? You're such a brainy person. You can help your country in so many ways. But what happens in India a lot of times is I'm trying to earn. The struggle is so much. My appreciation for teaching is not appreciated because people above me, they are like, we don't want you to come above because then we will be compared. So my struggle is so real that I'm like, पैसे कमाते हैं यार, घर चलाते हैं, बहुत है. How am I supposed to help people even around me? But if you're in a place, you're earning well, you're happy with what you're doing. As a neurologist, I'm a lot into upcoming technologies, upcoming researches, because that is the future of neurology, which is very different in India. But I think if I'm earning well, I'm doing well for myself, I'm always going to be an Indian at heart. I feel so much connected as an Indian when I'm outside, that whenever I get an opportunity to help, I'm going to come back, or in whatever way I'm going to help. This is my way of giving back. Everyone has their own way of giving back, right? But just get over that guilt if anyone tells you, and if they don't understand, maybe they're not evolved enough to understand. This world is one place, it's one planet, right? So as doctors, you're helping human beings. You need to get above and over it. Okay, let me start this session by saying very few short things about yourself. There's step 1, step 2, step 3. Everyone knows? There's a step 0 that a lot of people ignore and go ahead of it. I like the USMLE journey because it fits well with what I wanted in life. Does not mean it has to fit well with everyone. Asking yourself that question, do you really want to do the USMLE journey, is super important. Be it finances, be it you are too comfortable in your life, be it you have a huge family in India and you are very family oriented, it's okay to be in India. But if you decide to go there for whatever pros and cons, then you need to be dedicated, committed to it. And it's absolutely fine. मेरे को बहुत लोग आके पूछते हैं, यार यूएस बेटर है ना प्लाब से, यार प्लाब बेटर है ना नीट से, नीट बेटर है ना यूएस से. ये सवाल ही गलत है. तुम्हारे लिए क्या सही है वो तो तुम्हें पता है. So whenever someone comes to you like this, just he's not the right person to talk in a lot of ways. But that does not mean that you objectively don't see the pros and cons. You analyze them and you कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ छोड़ना पड़ता है. I was recently told that. खोना नहीं, छोड़ना पड़ता है. So obviously, being away from family is my hardship, but I have some family in US, so that helps. Again, that is my story. So whatever works well with your story, you decide you want to go ahead with this journey or you don't want to go ahead with this journey. That is step 0. Got it, everyone? Perfect. The second tip I have is, like Dr. Killen already mentioned, don't copy anyone. Everyone is very unique. I shared a story yesterday, and I think a lot of people want there, so I will share that in very short. You have 3 neurology applicants. Think, this is one message I want you to take away. After today's session, you all will start thinking like a program director. Okay, let's make that happen, because that is the key to matching, I think. So if you are all program directors and you are a neurology PD and you see 3 applicants, I did not get my visa very easily. It was a struggle, and I had 1 tele rotation. When I got my visa, I did three physical neurology rotations. So I have 3 physical neurology rotations and 1 tele rotation. There's an applicant with me who has all 4 neurology rotations, physical. And there's an applicant with me who has 3 neurology plus 1 IM rotation, physical. Who, according to you, is the best candidate that you want in your program right now? Anyone who wants to volunteer? Okay, people who think 4 neurology, best applicant. Okay, show of hands, man. Perfect. 3 neurology, 1 IM. Hands up. And sad story, could not get another physical rotation, tele-rotation. Am I the best applicant? Yeah, pata hai, sundar hoon, badhiya hoon, but don't lie. I'm not, apparently. But now, the same scenario. My CV goes. His CV goes. His CV goes. Now they've chosen me for the interview. They've seen me. They're going to talk to me. But there is this bias, tele-rotation, right? I come across. Okay, 3 rotations physical are the mandate. Everyone has it. Obviously, everyone has 4. No one wants to take a chance, right? But now, in the era of COVID, after everything, your center has a teleconsultation service. These people have no experience with tele. I know how to manage a patient over Zoom. So that service of yours is better suited to me. It's not like it's not a part of your service, right? These guys have no idea how to go about it. So from a point of view where he was thinking me as a minus to maybe a neutral candidate, I'm the plus. And you know when that happens, I'm not selling it by faking it. I believe it. Every rotation, you will find people saying, I didn't learn this. It wasn't as good. And sometimes it was really good. But it's all about your mindset. I had a tele-rotation. I could not touch the patient, but I saw cases like I have never seen before. I used to make notes. I used to make documents. And trust me, I'm not the most hardworking guy. You guys here are much more hardworking than me. If you go and stalk my Instagram, I'm the most travel freak person. Not hardworking. And I've accepted that. But I know how I work, so I work smart. Sometimes, to succeed, it's not necessary to choose hardships. If you get it, you strive through it. But don't choose them for themselves, because your struggle is maybe something else. It's beyond. मेरे पेरेंट्स ने जो स्ट्रगल देखी, अगर उनके टाइम पे पैसों की कमी थी, तो उनकी अचीवमेंट ये थी कि वो अपने बच्चे को एक बेटर लाइफ दे सके. जरूरी नहीं है कि मैं भी वही सेम स्ट्रगल देखूं, बट मैं देखूंगा कोई और तरीके की स्ट्रगल. आई सॉ दैट स्ट्रगल विद माय वीजास. Okay, people who have had rejected US visas, it's okay. You don't have to raise your hands necessarily, but there, I'm sure it's a lot of anxiogenic scenario, and you see people with so many opinions. क्या किया था, क्या बोला था जाके, क्या नहीं बोला था जाके. Trust me, यार किसी भी दुकान पे इतने बंदे जाएंगे. US knows people are crazy for it. They don't have a lot of time. Frankly, to some extent, if you don't even create a blunder, just by looking at your face, it's a coin toss sometimes. What are you thinking about beyond that? Don't go with any blunders. Obviously, do the right things, but sometimes things can go wrong. My emergency visa request was rejected. My visa was rejected as a student couple of times. I was still strong. My parents were very helpless. Like, मेरे parents का visa लगा दिया कि आप जाओ, इसको रख लेते हैं, because अब तो वापस आओगे ना, बेटा यहाँ पे. But if you lose it, people find reasons that, and I got my visa rejected in my second, third year. That's a good enough reason for me to drop my USMLE journey. Doesn't make sense. No, but because this is what I want in life. There is no other way I am happy. So this will work out. And it will work out. And it worked out. And it's absolutely fine. That is just one part of the puzzle. Things will work out. तुम्हारी struggle ही अलग है, तो तुम्हारा solution भी तो अलग होगा. But don't be around people who demotivate you. यार नहीं होगा, यार नहीं हो पाएगा. No one knows everything, right? Just be smart enough to be around people who make you think positively about your situation. अगर specifically visa advice चाहिए तो मैं दे सकता हूँ. But again, coming back to the most important advice. Even if everything else is skipped, I'm okay with it. The questions will be answered for everything by this one single statement. Sir, CV में और क्या डालें? कितनी और रिसर्च करें? क्लिनिकल एक्सपीरियंस यहाँ पे ऐसा है, यूनिवर्सिटी लेटर हेड के ऊपर नहीं है, पर्सनलाइज्ड पता नहीं है कि नहीं है, 3 न्यूरो और 1 IM ठीक है, या 2 IM और 2 न्यूरो ठीक है, या चारों IM ठीक है. सर साइक में रोटेशन नहीं मिल रही है तो 2 साइक ठीक है, 2 IM ठीक है. Now just print this line in golden alphabets in your head. What if you were a PD? They are not idiots. They know your situation. They knew in COVID rotations are difficult. That is why telerotations became acceptable. There was no rule by ECFMG that अब telerotations लेनी शुरू कर दो, because they are human beings. The good thing is the culture is that young people like you and me who are passionate about becoming PDs become PDs. If I can justify 4 neurology rotations, and my personal statement says that I have passion for medicine as well. That is enough. I feel all right about it. And if you have 2 medicine rotations and you've learned so much, I would say you are in equally a good spot. Maybe better, maybe worse. But think like how a PD thinks. कितनी रिसर्च जरूरी है? यार इसका कोई जवाब थोड़ना होता है. तुम्हें रिसर्च का पैशन है तो 10 करो, 20 करो, 30 करो. हाँ, उतनी जरूरी है कि कल को US is different from India because you need to know how to read and understand papers. They, in every interview, they knew we don't want everyone to be a researcher. If 14 people are coming in the program, what will happen if all 14 of them become a researcher? I got an interview from UPenn and they told me like, we see that you love teaching and this environment is so conducive to you, you would love it here because we would love to have a teacher. We would love to have someone who also knows research. You are a quiz master, so my PD, my supposed PD in UPenn, Dr. Raymond Price, he was a fan of trivia and I've conducted 12, 13 international national quizzes. He was like, it's gonna be a great time together. But tell me, if I'm telling you these things, can you suddenly instill this hobby or love or passion for quiz making or teaching? You can't. And that is why they don't ask for certificates. We are always collecting. I have 373 certificates that I collected and I printed in the last 3 years. Not because I wanted it for USMLE. I liked participating in things. No one asked me for one certificate. What really mattered were things I could talk about. And what things can I talk about? Things I want to talk about. And what things I want to talk about are things that I have done. वो game ही खत्म हो जाती है. If I was leading an organization with 200 people, just for the sake of it, I've not done work, what will I talk about it? But I led an organization with 200 people, 200 college heads and 7,000 members. And we did work on the ground. I made friends, I made connections, I worked so much. I created houses for AMSA India. I worked with great people on a neurology magazine. Akshata is here and the team is here. And all of that happened and I talked about it because I worked on it. No one asked me for one single certificate because the truest certificate are your eyes, your passion with which you talk about things. And that can be anything. But if you try copying someone, if there's one good advice about writing your personal statement, I think most people would agree. हर बंदे ने सुना होगा, आपकी PS 1 पेज की होनी चाहिए. Has everyone heard it? Show of hands, please. I feel a little excited. Perfect. It's a very logical advice. But do you know what is the limit of pages you get for writing your PS? Does anyone know that? I think unlimited. It can even go up to 50-60 pages. There is no limit to that. But it makes sense. It makes sense to you, right? Because इतनी सारी applications आ रही हैं, तुम्हारे पास कहाँ time है यार पढ़ने का? As a PD, again, you go back. As a PD, I wouldn't have time to go through everything. So one page makes sense. Obviously, write a beautiful PS. Everyone's told that. spend your time, everything. But I was a medical poet. I have medical poems on 31 different medical topics from diabetes to autism and everything. And I could write one line in my PS. I love doing poetry, emphasizing on medical themes. What does that make you think about me? करता होगा, ठीक है? What do I do about it? I know I trust my work so much. I was like, I feel like putting it in my personal statement. Somehow. Because मुझे दिखाना है. Personal statement में एक adjective आता है और वो personal है. वो तुम हो. And I don't understand how other people can write your PS. I don't just understand the concept of it. Yes, if you're weak grammatically, please go and seek help. Please show it to as many people. Improve it. But it has to be your story. तुम्हारी story किसी और को कैसे पता हो सकती है? And I even asked a few people that I knew in US, like they would say like, don't risk it. Don't put a poem, right? Like, पता नहीं, some people might like, क्यों डाली है, right? So stay safe. And then there was a webinar with a lot of PDs, and like I just wrote like, I'm a medical poet, and I was planning to put a poem, and they were like, we would love it, please do. That made me realize there are people like me, because जब मैं applications देख रहा हूँगा 1000 और मैं देखूँगा, wait, ये क्या है? That would make them stop on it. But I'm not compromising on my safety because I have a 1 page ki PS which is relevant to almost everyone. If you like poetry and that intrigues you, you will go that extra mile to read it. But if you don't, it's going to be a neutral thing to you. But out of those 1000 PDs, 500 ऐसे होंगे जिनको फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, 100 ऐसे होंगे who will be like, wow, this is amazing. और 10 ऐसे होंगे like, क्यों डाली है, हटाओ, इसकी application लेनी नहीं है मेरे को. So the struggle to make everyone happy is so futile. But मैं तुम्हें बताऊँ, how is it a win-win situation? वो 10 लोगों को मैं बचा रहा था ना, वो poem ना डाल के, मेरे को वहाँ जाना ही नहीं है यार, वो मेरी creativity मार रहा है. And neurology as a branch is super creative. Like the PDs I met, they used to like, I had a 70-year PD who used to rap with me. You can't even imagine those things here. And I learned those things. They are acceptive of your creativity. And हम उस creativity को मारते हैं कि यार गिटार लिख के क्या करेंगे अपनी CV में, मतलब इसका तो कोई यूज ही नहीं है. People come to me, यार हमारी CV में तो कुछ भी नहीं है. मैं कहता हूँ पेपर दो और तुम्हारे कामों से ही तुम्हारी CV निकालते हैं हम. Because everything is CV. But you have to believe in yourself. If you sell yourself like, I don't know. In my hobbies, one of the hobbies were logo designing and digital art. And in one of the interviews, like, can you show me your digital art? I somehow had it in my phone. Now it's a make or break situation. If I don't have it, everything on my CV is a lie. Everything. That एक word is not worth the risk, but I had it. And suddenly, he was so impressed. He's like, everything on your CV is true. I don't need to ask you anything else now. So you have to know everything that goes in has to be out of your belief and has to be true. That is the only two things that need to go in your application. All right. Okay, moving on from the CV and the PS. Step 2 scores, obviously the only objective criteria, the best thing that will help things filter. Again, think of it like a PD. Literally इस साल अगर एक 40 positions अगर कहीं खुलती है ना, उसके लिए 40,000 applications तक भी आती हैं. उसमें से filter होके 4,000 आती है, फिर 400 आती हैं. How do you think they're going to filter a lot of things? The first filter is going to be that objective criteria of a step 2 score. So a lot of times we try के बहुत जल्दी कर दे यार, एक year of graduation बचा ले. That's a good idea, but not at the cost of your step 2 scores, because the game is even difficult now. It's just one objective criteria. Moving on to step 3, I realized this. Obviously, step 3 is something which you can choose to give and not choose to give. But I had a few interviews. They were like, how did you manage to give your step 2, step 3 US clinical experience and apply in this year? And all I did was use my rotations ka free wala time to prepare for my step 3. And I'm someone who just doesn't prepare. I like studying, so I wanted to score well. So I scored 247 on my step 3. And although it might be a neutral thing, subconsciously it impacted people so much that I'm so impressed. So there isn't always a right or a wrong answer in black and white. But there are things that you can do to improve. If you are decreasing your year of graduation without step 3, that's a good idea. But if you're increasing your year of graduation and you have time for step 3, why not? You get my point? You have to make your own story, your own journey, and you have to sell it in a way. I had time and I made good use of that time. But this was to debunk के शायद कई लोगों को लगता है कि like step 3 ki score, I made my exam formalized before it went with my application, because no one has time to see your application later again when you call and everything. So you have to do everything before September 27th. Another thing that is a very beautiful tip that I personally used: every rotation that you go to, every day, you will see patients and you will think you remember things. Every basic thing, every basic patient, just make a record. Write those things. Because you know how and where those things will help you. When you're going to ask for your letter of recommendation at a later point of time, that doctor is not free for you. He is seeing so many more patients. When you're sending him a request to send the LOR, attach a document with it. Sir, this was my experience. So my document looks like patients I saw, things I learned from you. That will refurnish things in his head, and he will think that you are, without directly asking for a good LOR, you made him realize that how passionate you are for the work. And in subtle ways, if he doesn't have time, he might copy and paste certain things from there to your LOR, right? So that's a good idea. But use your resources very effectively. I wasn't the most hardworking guy, so I used to spend time once and I used to reuse the thing again and again. I used the same documents when I was using my MyEra CV, and my CV, my application, looks way beyond who I am. Because it's systemized, it's not like kya kiya tha, kya kiya tha, kya kiya tha. I have record of everything. So make sure your application reflects who you are. Underline karo, bold karo, things, aesthetics matter. It's not just another document like in India, you're like, theek hai, sab kuch it's not kagaj putty. So how much you want it needs to be reflected through your CV. Because they will know you only in your interview, but how do you get those interviews? Our scores and your CV, right? I'll come down to a few things which are specifically about neurology. किसी का ये सवाल है regarding multiple specialties, not just neurology. Like medicine is safer because we have seats, right? So should I apply only for neurology, or I should apply for neurology and medicine as a backup, or something else and medicine as a backup? Anyone has that question? Okay, people who don't have that question, does that make sense to you? ये क्वेश्चन तो जेन्युइन है, राइट? नाउ मेरे पास जो है मैं वो दूंगा, इसे तुम जवाब समझो या ना समझो. Obviously it makes sense when you're applying as an IMG, you saw the stats, and it makes much more sense that you apply widely across medicine, and like in the states, like Dr. Killan said, which are more IMG friendly, because it's a numbers game. In my interviews, they told me, we love you, but we don't know, because we have only one seat for an IMG. We don't know if we will end up taking you or not, but we love you. And don't take it personally, because it's a numbers game. I signaled certain places who said we will take you, and they didn't take me, but I got interviews from places I never expected, like UPenn and Emory. So that told me my application is fine. Don't take things too personally, but increase the numbers game, increase the probability of getting more interviews so that you match somewhere. That's all it is. So it makes sense that you apply in medicine because it's so many more seats, right? But now everyone is different. I am someone, I feel so strongly for neurology that I could not imagine myself doing anything else. Most neuro people don't feel like that. They're like, we really like neurology, but we would be very happy with medicine. So that thing makes sense, right? So your journey has to decide that for you. But in whatever way, there are two things. When you apply as a neurology and a medicine applicant at the same time, things obviously logistically become difficult for you, because now you have to make twos of everything or even more. Your personal statements and things within your CV, your clinical experiences will be kind of divided. It will always be 2 and 2, right? So in whatever way, it will be reflected to me that neurology, you like it, but you don't want it enough. And when I know that you don't want it enough, there are millions of people who want it enough. Why will I want you, right? So either fake it that you want it enough. I should not know it, but which becomes very difficult, right? So either of those two things are good. Your final aim should decide how you want to apply. If your aim is to go match and you'll be happy as a medicine resident, it makes all the sense in the world. But it's not wrong to not apply for medicine or to only apply for medicine. It's not wrong either way, right? Again, you have to use your own journey to decide that for yourself. Does that answer something for everyone? Perfect. Okay, now a few things for neurology, like a couple things just for neurology. which are like when you have your LORs, which are 3 versus 4, it makes a difference, but not as much, because what matters is your LORs need to be personalized. Not things like, is it on a hospital letterhead or is it not? I've been listening to a lot of people, and I understand everyone is very fresh in this journey, but you have to learn the art of asking the right questions. Some questions are not the right questions. They are not relevant. Like, sir, observership हो रही है या clerkship हो रही है या externship हो रही है? I get it. It makes some difference, but not to the extent the amount you make it. It is all US clinical experience. If that can get you a personalized LOR, it's much better from a university, where you might not be learning anything, or you might be learning anything, but the PD does not even have time to write you an LOR. People in my interview, my PDs told me, we have never seen an LOR like this. And I never could read my LOR, but they told me, this guy has written that you are the best student he's ever had. So things like that make a difference. It does not even matter. I was a graduate when I did my US clinical experience. So it was technically an externship. It never even came across. No one even asked me about it. So start asking the right questions. It does not matter as much we make it of a big deal. If your situation demands you to get graduated, get your degree and come for your rotations. If you have time, sure, delay your year of graduation. But ये नहीं, it's not the end of the world कि मेरा year of graduation delay हो गया, अब तो मेरा कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता. We all matched, and we all matched at great places. I was someone, I intrinsically just didn't want to match. I am someone who wants to establish a medical education company kind of a thing. So I wanted to go to a university program, because that is my calling. I have a passion for teaching. I know things that are lacking in the world, and I want to get it on the forefront. So I just didn't want to match anywhere. So you have to ask yourself the right questions. ऐसा नहीं है, वो एक सीट थी मेरी में, which was for an Indian, एक सीट है इटालियन के लिए, बाकी सब 8 बंदे वहाँ पे IMGs हैं. Because the truth is कि वहाँ पे वो in unofficial ways it's reserved for them. And I was from GMC Amritsar. It's not affiliated to any place for US clinical experience like KMC or AIMS, but it happens. Uस time I had no idea how much contacts matter. They do. I got to know later. So my advice is networking is really important, but I couldn't as much, but I still matched. So as IMGs, it's possible, and trust me, people will tell you it's super stressful. It wasn't stressful for me. It was difficult. It was long. It was frustrating on days, but it's one of the most beautiful days, beautiful journeys I had. So it's possible. All you need to do is want what you want badly enough. वो चाहिए तो होगा, और वो इसलिए होगा क्योंकि you will not settle for anything less. So never listen to people who think ये नहीं हो पाएगा, but that doesn't mean that तुम logic के हिसाब से मत चलो. You have to balance the reality of the situation and what your ambition is, right? 5 minutes? Okay. So guys, last 5 minutes. These things you can talk to me about in any personalized session if you have any specific questions, because I would like to use this time for everyone at the same time. This is my LinkedIn. I have a few blogs about step 2 and step 1, step 3, so you can go through them. A few of my teaching slides. But okay, I will just show you one way how to approach certain things in life, okay? So this was a quiz that we did, and this was just to showcase how everything in the world can be connected to neurology. So this has 19 questions, one question related to every sub-theme of neurology: neurootology, neuro-oncology, neurogerontology. But I will focus on one question to teach you something. Which of the following kinds of hearing loss is characterized by Weber's test laterized to the better ear? Man, I've done my steps. I might be passionate for education, but your mind might not retain everything. I get this question at some random point in my life. I don't know nothing. All I remember is, if there's one correct option, autosclerosis is conductive hearing loss, everything else is sensory neural hearing loss. If I need to choose one, the answer is very clear. It's autosclerosis. I don't even need to understand the question for that. So this does not mean I don't motivate teaching for passion or learning for passion, but you have to differentiate the skill of test taking from education, the passion for education. Because a lot of times in the tests, they will ask you things and your score will not always reflect how good you are at education, but how good you are at test taking. So you need to balance that skill as well. So learn that for yourself. You can go through, every question teaches you something like that. later, but because we have short time. Okay. This was the poem that went in my personal statement, obviously a shorter version of it. It's on autism. But you have to also understand that that poem is not just another poem. I am a neurology applicant who's passionate for poetry. In every way, it makes sense, it goes in my PS, right? And I had people who were skeptical, would they like it? And when they read it, they were like, how did this happen? What is the story behind this poem? In 15 of my interviews, they asked me the story. And the best thing was, in all my neurology interviews, I did not prepare much. I could not. I was like, there were so many interviews, I could not prepare every day. And they were the most comfortable things I had in my life, the most beautiful conversations. Because I was just being myself. It was just my passion for neurology. And there's every kind of an interview. There were interviews where people like, just tell me about yourself. There were people with very traditional questions. But the only two stressful times I had were during my prelim IM interviews. Like, I don't know what I need to talk about. So then I needed to prepare, right? Because as long as you're going in the lines of things that you're passionate about, interviews are not stressful. Here in this whole process with the amazing teams of humans of USMLE, we are helping you excel those 10%, 20% situations which might come across unexpected to you, right? But this does not mean you have to take stresses of the interview. This does not mean that every interviews go like that. We are preparing you for those situations that might be unexpected. You have to believe at all times, listen to all of us. We have advice from experience, but you are the final judge of your situation. So sometimes people will tell you this is the best way to go forward, but if you think, go ahead. We are not like we are condescending you, try your luck. If you believe in your journey that enough, then go ahead with it. And we all wish you the best of luck for that. So I think that's the end of this part, but I had a couple slides for at the photos. I just want to use 2 of them for everyone else. So those were a few Instagram takeover questions that I had. I will not be spending a lot of time over them. But if you have similar questions, you can reach out to me. So I just want to showcase them to you so that we can save everyone's time with those questions. Was the session fruitful enough? So thank you so much. I usually put a lot of humor in my slides, but I think this was something that required a little seriousness. But I'll just go forward through. This is how my CV looked. If you're applying for neurology or whatever, everything should scream that thing for you, right? So I had a newsletter that we were the editor of. It was a neurology newsletter, a national neurology quiz. Everything is difficult, but it screams neurology. If I did some research, it was about neurology. Because that helps me hit 2 birds with 1 stone, right? This is a little about UPenn, people who want to match into Ivy League, some advice I have. These are tips on how you should write your personal statement. Again, you can ask later. For people preparing for step 1, there's a video that I tried to make. You can go on YouTube and just type 10 things you want to know about USMLE step 1. You will have that. Tips about the interviews, we will ask later as we have a workshop. What is the correct timeline for USMLE? This is one of the questions. And you don't have any contacts in the US. Is it still possible to match? I will answer that for you if you guys want that. About student organizations, about research, what is neurology as a residency, if you like it, categorical versus advanced, and how did I prepare for steps. So I think I was able to cover this in time. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for being such a lovely audience.